as it was fizzing, it's just busted off. Oh, it's a common, I can see it's a common. Come on in, you come. Gotcha. Well, that's a bit bigger than I thought. What a creature. Like a fingerprint, isn't it? Awesome, Pad Lake's common. All set up on the historic Yateley Pads Lake. Now, the Yateley complex is somewhere that I've read about for years, right since I started carp fishing. In English carp fishing, it is right up there with the most historic complexes and venues. And the Pads is steeped in history, as indeed are all the lakes on the complex. I've got the split to one side of me and then the Carp Lake behind me. So yeah, I feel immersed in history. The first thing I did was lap it. You know, I wanted to see if I could find some fish. Although pretty much straight away I decided that I was going to fish for the night in this waiting man swim. It's a lovely swim, commanding the main set of pads and a nice bit of open water. It's the obvious choice. However, there was a little bit of activity down in the far corner. So I put a little bit of bait in, and while I set my gear up and had a little fiddle about, I let it cook. And when I went back down there was definitely more than one fish fizzing. Quite a lot of squidges of bubbles, as I call them, you know, lots of different sized bubbles as they rooted on what is quite a soft bottom, obviously. So yeah, it was a prime opportunity for a little bit of stalking. Power of a couple of handfuls of pellet, eh boys? But that bottom is super soft there. The fact that it's fizzing like that. Yeah, look, 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 there's two there. Everything in life is timing, and fishing is certainly about getting your timing right. And in this situation, although I got to see them feeding, and they did come and feed over me for a little while, us being there, me putting the actual rig out over the bait did spook them a little bit, and I didn't have the patience to sit there. I wanted to get set up for the evening. So when I went to check a while ago, there was actually a lot of activity, but I was already set up here for the night. I put some more bait in, and I'm going to go and hopefully stalk one out tomorrow down there. So for tonight I'm set up fishing 2 rods to this big set of lily pads, where I'm sure there's lots of carp. Now I know it seems a bit weird putting everything in separately. Most people have a bait mix, but I like to choose what I put in on each drop, and sometimes it won't be the same thing. In this case, I do want a bit of particle and wet mix, but I also want to put a bag over the top, so I'm going to put a layer of dry bait on top, and then I can lay my rig and my little mesh bag on top of that. And I'm putting quite a bit of bait out because this is going to sit out there for the night now, and I've seen quite a few silvers on my travels, so yeah, I don't want them to eat me out of house and home before I get a bite. Let's get her out there. Out she goes. Luckily we've got no wind, which makes life nice and easy. Okay, right on the edge of the pads, let's drop that. Yeah, nice drop there, lovely. That's the first rod dropped. I'm going to put the second rod on the same big set of pads, just a bit further along, because there's plenty of fish in here. So that'll be me for tonight. From what I've seen when I arrived earlier on, I expect that there'll be a fair bit of fizzing tomorrow morning. So whatever those 2 rods do tonight, whether I get action or not, I know that I'll have plenty to go on in the morning. I've baited down at the other end. There's definitely fish visiting that corner as well, so I can keep an eye on that. So the best thing is that there's plenty of options, and that's what I like in my fishing. Again, a nice firm drop, not super hard, that'll do. In the morning, I will let the carp tell me what's going on, what they're happy doing. If they're out there fizzing, I can pole out and drop rigs on them. So yeah, I'm enjoying the ambience. It's a beautiful evening. Let's get the kettle on. sat watching them fizzing, drinking the first coffee of the morning. And there's not been a lot going on. I was just lamenting the fact that it had been a little bit quiet, but yeah, as it was fizzing, it's just busted off. Oh, it's a common, I can see it's a common. Even 30 yards out. I moved both my rods this morning. I got up at, it was actually 2 minutes to 5 I looked at the clock. There was quite an impressive dawn chorus. There wasn't loads of activity, but I felt that they were going to be coming out of those pads. So I pulled both my rods out into an area where I saw a fish show last night, just out in open water. Oh, it's got wedged in the weed. It is really weedy out here. Just trying to keep it moving, but it seems to have, oh, that's it, it's just come. That's it, it's moving now, slowly. Come on, in you come. Come on. Gotcha. Yes. Yes, boys. Well, that is my first Yateley carp. What a result. Genuinely, summer is my favourite time to go carp fishing. A lot of anglers will say autumn, some will say spring, but for me, summer is when it's all going on. Carp are done with spawning and they're hungry. Yeah, the lakes are often at their most beautiful, green, there's weed everywhere, there's opportunity everywhere. It's the kind of fishing that I love. Really long one. Mega fish. Okay.
33.10.
No way. Well, that's a bit bigger than I thought. What a creature. Like a fingerprint, isn't it? What a great carp. Look at the length of it. I really wasn't expecting it to be so big, to be honest. It didn't look that big in the net, but actually now I've got it in my arms. The length of it. Awesome Pad Lake's common. I mean, I'm sure people will tell me about the history of it. I don't know, I'll have to ask someone, but I mean, it looks like an original one to me. It's got that tight scaling. I mean, this fish could well be as old as I am, although we won't tell you quite how old that is, but yeah, mega, mega, mega carp. Yeah, so my baiting approach, it's fairly simple. You know, I use a core set of ingredients. It's based around pellet and flake boilie. And in the summer, I'd add particle, and I use two different sizes, small particle mix and the large seed mix, and that covers all the bases for me. I tend not to mix it all together in one mix like a lot of people would do. I add all 4 ingredients separately as each situation dictates. So, for instance, on this trip, I've used it all, and at times I've just used the dry mix. If I want to use a PVA bag, for instance, in the spoon, I won't fill it up with wet particle, I'll use some dry stuff instead. So it allows me to tailor my bait into each situation, and to me that's really important because every drop is different. Every drop is, I'm trying to get that bite as quickly as possible. Well, this rig hadn't been out that long, probably about half an hour, and I'd been seeing a little bit of fizzing in the area, just short of where the swans were feeding. Quite mad, like the carp are obviously really happy sharing the lake with the swans. It wasn't affecting their behaviour at all. It's deep enough there, it was about 5 foot where I dropped it, so it's deep enough to be safe from the swans, but there is a lot of weed that's coming up to the surface in places. Wow. Powerful carp, this one. The other one kind of wallowed in the edge, but this one is definitely a bit livelier. It's a mirror I can see. Oh, that's a nice carp. That'll do. Come on. In you come. Yeah. bite of the morning, and this one's a real character of a mirror. Fought really well in the weed. It's still fizzing out there, so chance for another one. But a lovely carp, common and a mirror. Let's get you back. It's been quite an active morning. The fish are still out there fizzing. I've reeled in twice and gone and had a look down the other end. Once there was nothing down there, but about an hour ago there were 2 fish down there feeding. So I think at some point later on in the afternoon I'm going to reel these in, walk down there with a couple of rods and just drop them in the edge and see if I can't stalk one as well. I think the plan is to stay in this swim for the night. There's no point moving, there's fish feeding out in front of me. I can see fish feeding a bit further down the lake, but as I'm sat here now, I've got fish fizzing over my left-hand rod. So no, it's a beautiful afternoon. It's really muggy and warm. Got some thunder and rain due a little bit later, but it's... Oh, that was a coot. Thought I was in. It's funny, I've just been sat here watching the coot and the fizzing carp right next to it. So they're obviously quite happy to feed together. And the same, I had a bite earlier on when the swans were literally a few feet away from the spot. So it's a really shallow lake, and I think the birds and the carp are not really too fussed about the presence of the other one. So I think I'm going to have to reset that rod though, because he's definitely picked it up and I don't know where he's dropped it. So let's get that rod back out again. This is the time of year where the carp are at their most mobile, and those corners which for maybe 9 or 10 months of the year might be devoid of fish, this is the time that the carp will start creeping in. So there is no area that might not have carp in it. So it pays to check all those little corners, all those little holes. It's not all about the obvious spots. You know, on this lake in particular, there's some big stands of pads. But most of the activity, although I've started off fishing against them, really most of the activity has been away from the pads. I've been using the pole to drop my rigs in open water. It's not kind of snag fishing or fishing under overhangs. It's really just accurate and discreet placement of the bait in small holes in the weed. Well, I couldn't sit and watch them fizzing from over there any longer. I could have added another 20 sections to the pole and chipped it over, but made more sense just to walk around. So I'm going to have a quick go. There's several sets of bubbles indicating there's a few carp feeding here. Quite hard. So I'm going to ship a couple of rigs amongst them. They're only about 30 yards out here, so it's nice and manageable. See if I can stealth out a quick bite. One little tactical change I'm going to make is I'm going to take the brown off and put a pink on. I've been watching them fizzing over me, and I'm used to getting quite quick bites when they do that, and it's taken longer than I would have liked. So yeah, hopefully something a bit more visible will draw them to the hook bait and the takes will come quicker, because they're feeding over me for ages before I'm actually getting a bite. So I don't think they're singling out the hook bait. Now let's see if this makes a difference. Okay, so I'm just about to ship this out onto the bubblers. It's a really simple rig, a kind of German style arrangement with half a pop-up 12mm, which kind of sits above the hook like a wafter. I tie the hook link exactly the same way as I tie my multi-rig, with an overhand knot at each end, one for looping onto the lead and one for looping the hook on and off. So it's really, really easy to change the hook without retying a whole new hook link. In fact, all the components can be recycled. So yeah, really simple, and it's doing the business at the moment. Just putting that PVA bag on. In the spring months, I'm really happy to use a multi-rig. It's my rig of choice and has been for over a decade. But actually, I've been using something a little bit more subtle. I think after spawning, the fish can get a little bit wary of those baits that are off the bottom. You know, it's classic kind of wafter time. And I'm just fishing it slightly differently, wafter style, but with a much smaller hook bait. I'm not really like a whole boilie user in a lot of my fishing. So using half a 12mm rather than a wafter, because I'm fishing over bits, for me that's a better way of doing it. I'm fishing that sort of German style. I think that's what it's called when you fish it with the swivel on the hook and a bead trap in it, and I'm using a long shank claw. Really, it's forced me to change my approach. You know, this is a hook that it's something that I've been looking forward to Nash producing for a long time. A hook with a a big point, you know, long shank big point. It was something that was missing from the range for me. As much as I love the twister, when I'm fishing those gravelly lake beds, I want that big point so the hook isn't turned over if it's wafted around. In the spring months, my hook bait choice is usually a pink citrus. You know, this is something that has been so effective for me over the last few years. Last year also started using white a little bit because of the water clarity. It was much more visible, but yeah, pink is my go-to. After spawning in the summer months, pink I find can be a little bit less effective in the clearer water. You want something a bit more match for hatch. You know, they've seen it, they've all been caught on your pressured lakes already. So on this trip, I've actually had a little play around because I've started off on the match for hatch colour boilies and I've watched the fish kind of fizzing over the top of me, and I have had bites, but it's taken a while, and I'm thinking that, you know, as they're feeding over the top of me, they're not singling the hook bait out over the other food items, which is something that can really happen with a bright hook bait, and it gets you quicker bites. So yeah, I'm going to, this evening, put pink ones on instead of brown ones and see if that makes any difference in the morning. You know, I'm not really expecting a bite in darkness. It seems like the fish are a lot more active during the day, so hopefully I'll get a good night's sleep and chance of a couple more in the morning, I think. One thing I do love about the summer is there's always something going on, but that doesn't mean that the carp are always super active. There are kind of dead times where the fish are not so active, they're just chilling, so they might have spent the morning feeding, and often, especially on a bright day, that won't continue for the whole day. There will come a point where the fish go, I've had enough, I'm going to chill, I'm going to go and sit under the pads, I'm going to go and sit on the bush or, you know, under the surface, in the weed, and that's the time maybe to do your prep work, to redo your rigs, if you're going to have a little lead about, because you're not really disturbing your chances of the bite, which I kind of knew on this lake was going to come in the morning. So yeah, it's something to bear in mind. You will have an ebb and a flow in the carp activity. Try and take advantage of those times when the carp are active, you know, because it won't necessarily carry on for the whole day and for the whole trip. So yeah, don't take it for granted. It might not happen tomorrow. So yeah, opportunism for the win. So I've been running around like a madman. I'm on my third swim of the day, I think. I've come down to the far end for a little bit of stalking. I fished here last night and there was a few fish down here, but I managed to spook them, I think, when I got the rig out. So I've chosen a time where there weren't many fish about. I just saw one small common swimming around. So I've got 2 rigs in, right under the rod tip, and I'm going to sit here an hour or two, see what happens. The wind's kind of changed, it's blowing up the other end a little bit now, so I'm pretty sure that there's going to be fish in my original swim, but well, it's funny how it goes, isn't it? That rod had been out no more than 5 minutes. Literally just sat back. And yeah, he's obviously come straight in and fed. There was a common swimming around. Is it common? Yeah, it's definitely the same one. It's looks to be about 15 pounds. Come on, in you come. Yes. Wicked. I can't believe how quick that was. Well, he's about half the size of this morning's common, but I think he's an old one as well. He's got a snubby little nose, tight scales, little double belly, cool tail. Yeah, he's a really nice little character. I'm pretty sure this was the one that I saw swimming around in this corner just before I put the rig out, so it's not a surprise really to see him in the bottom of my net, seeing as I'm pretty sure it was the one that was swimming around about 10 minutes earlier. But what a cool little character. Anyway, he's the only one that was down here, so I'm gonna wrap up and head back to my swim. Let's get you back. So in the summer months, you've got the classic edge fishing. You know, this is a time of year where you're most likely to find the carp in the margin. You've often got a lot of weed in the lake. It's at its highest, the growth is fresh and vigorous, and the fish come around the edges of it. So yeah, it's a great time for watching carp, for finding them and for setting little traps. Not a carp, sadly. Thought I was going to finish on a high note, but quiet night. Not much going on this morning. I redid the rods first thing, but yeah, pretty quiet. But I'd set a target of 3 carp. 3 carp is what we got. Look at this tench. Happening with a mask of weed. Oh, it's a carp. Well, I thought it was a tench, but actually the commons are getting smaller and smaller and smaller. So that's it, the end of my trip to the Pads Lake. It's been a fantastic 2 nights. I've managed to catch a couple of really nice carp. It's a place that I long wanted to visit, so yeah, that's one ticked off the bucket list. Right, let's hit the road.